we're one of those companies that are small, but people think we're larger than we are. How do we do that?
Let's go deeper on this globalization, because you say globalization means localization.
It's a two-way street when it comes to all this, because I should have done it sooner, obviously.
Yeah, but it's always easy to reflect, right? And saying I should have done
Oh
something
yeah.
sooner. But try it out, figure it out, and then use your network. Yeah. What an episode. I'm your host, Sanna Winding, and in today's episode, we're discussing global sales and distribution in manufacturing with David Luna. He's the Vice President of Global Sales and Distribution at Knight Electronics and Orion Fans, who has over 40 years of experience. So what are you going to learn today? We're exploring the balance between globalization and localization. And David shares insights from the events like the Hanover Messe and emphasizes the importance of brand presence and local distributors in the European market. You want to have that footprint in Europe, right? We also discuss the significance of cultural understanding for small businesses entering international markets, and also the vital role of local partnership. You need to be close to each other, even though there's a distance, right? And additionally, you will learn about how U.S. commercial servers and programs like STEP support business going globally. And David has some good insights here. So tune in, and you will learn about how to navigate international sales, leveling local resources. And I think this episode is for anyone who is both seasonal professionals, but also for newcomers. So enjoy the episode. Welcome to Leadership in Manufacturing podcast. I'm your host, Sanna Winding, and thank you for tuning in today. This podcast is designed for professionals in manufacturing, supply chain, and the electronics component industry, providing insights to enhance your leadership skills. Have a little favor, please subscribe, rate us on your favorite podcast platform, or maybe you're watching on YouTube, then give us a like and follow us. You can also follow us on LinkedIn or Instagram. And for past episode, blog post, or maybe you want to sign up for the newsletter, please visit leadershipinmanufacturing.com. So let's talk about today's show. And today we're going to explore globalization requires localization, and we'll go further into that. But I want to introduce today's guest, David Luna. David is the second vice chair of the executive committee for the North Texas District Export Counseling, and also a member of the Business Counseling for Emerging Market with International Trade Counseling. And with over 40 years of experience, he currently serves as the VP of Global Sales and Distribution of Knight Electronics and Orion Fans. David began his career as a sales engineer and has since advanced to his current leadership role, where he oversees a vast range of industry, including industrial, automation, medical, and transportation. He played a crucial role in establishing a global network of distributors across North America and EMEA. So, David, welcome. I'm like, all your experience. I can't wait to hear good stuff from you.
Well, thanks so much. So honored to be part of the podcast. I've been a fan for, I don't know, several years or so. Watched you even do your podcast live at different conferences and things like that, and always wondered, what all the hubbub was about. But now I've watched several and pretty excited about some of the things that you bring to the listeners that you have.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I get goosebumps on this. So let's get started. I always love to get the passion, because as you can see, I have passion about this industry, but I want to hear, what excites you about the electronics industry?
Well, I, got into the industry over 40 years ago, mainly as an engineer, thinking how I'd get into this kind of business. But I really did like talking to people and just being with people and the relationships of doing things. And with an engineering background, having the technical kind of knowledge of how things worked, it just worked out that I got the opportunity to come into this world of manufacturing rep or distributor, or on our side on the factory level as a manufacturer. So it just excites me that you can put all those three together. Part of the reason we're all very close and tied into ERA and ECIA and all the groups with my little pins on today.
Yeah.
And just the idea of being able to have that collaboration between those three groups excites me every day. I work obviously mostly with my global distribution network that we have, but I also work closely with our reps that we have, and I also work very closely with industry people that I've known for decades. So it's just that's what excites me the most, is just the sheer opportunities and the face-to-face of learning what's going on in the industry, what the new emerging markets are happening, and just it just kind of keeps it exciting on a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that's every day is different, right? Which is
Oh,
I like
every
that.
day.
Every day, yeah. So let's go deeper on this globalization because you say globalization means localization. Can you go a little bit deeper on what that means for you?
Yeah, I explained to you back in 2015, 2016, we got the opportunity through the state of Texas actually to join the group to go to Hanover Messe in Hanover, Germany, one of the largest industrial automation shows in the world. The US was the partner country that year. And I thought, why not? That'd be a great opportunity because we sell into the industrial automation space
Yeah,
and a lot of our customers would be there. So I thought it'd be great. But when I got there and had my little booth with the U.S. Pavilion, because we're also part of the U.S. commercial service area and the U.S. Department of Commerce,
yeah,
I found out fairly quickly that nobody over there knew me as our company as
yeah,
like I thought they did.
yeah,
Even though we had been selling overseas throughout Europe for, I don't know, several, over 10 years or more, but we're very, didn't do a lot of business there. And then when I actually I had a meeting with somebody local from the Hanover area, an engineer
yeah,
who came up to me and could speak, I'll say broken English. I just found out fairly quickly that, if I wanted to be able to sell to this company, and to promote our brand name, it was going to be hard with my current abilities by myself because we're a small family company
yeah,
and didn't have really direct people overseas, but we had, basically some distributors in the area, global distributors that covered the area, and a lot of that was e-commerce.
yeah,
And they were looking for more of a local distributor, a local presence of somebody that they knew that they worked with on a daily basis, kind
yeah,
of like we do here, obviously in the States with, several of our distributor partners we have here. But, some of them just, they obviously would buy through e-commerce or buy that way, but they're
yeah,
really looking for that relationship. And then I started thinking, well, we're trying to be a global company. I think the way we're going to need to do that is to be local, to have that local presence. And so I came up with the idea of if I want to be global, I need to be local.
yeah,
And we started immediately looking at trying to set up local distributors, more family, I won't say family, but more uh, distributors that were present in the marketplace that had been there for years.
yeah,
And we started in Germany, and then we spread to Italy, and then France, and then other different countries. And we did that with the help of the U.S. Commercial Service Group and the embassies in each of the countries,
yeah,
and then the services they provide and things like that. That's kind of how it
yeah,
all started. And from there, it just blossomed from 2016 until today.
yeah. How important is it for like a small business to understand the cultural difference when you are actually entering the European market?
Well, I think that's the other thing I found out that I couldn't do it alone. We have a family company that's been in the business since 1979. But again, we're one of those companies that are small, but people think we're larger than we are. How do we do that?
Yeah,
You know, with the amount of people that we have, um, myself, I can't go to every country in the world. I need help.
yeah,
And I found out at Hanover Messe through that that first time at Hanover that with the U.S. Pavilion there that I had all these available resources with the Commercial Service Group, and that year I had 27 meetings with 27 different U.S. commercial service trade specialists
yeah,
in 27 countries. And I just decided I will meet all of them, tell them what I do, what our products are, and do they see opportunities in their country? And that's kind
yeah,
of how it started. I just found out, and they would go out and do the work I needed them to do. Basically, they would go out and do partner searches and what they call an initial market check. They would go out and check the market, or they would
Yeah.
go out and check a person or just somebody I was interested in talking to. And
Yeah.
they would do all the communications and stuff for me and do a report for a very little cost. I mean, it was very low at the time. And during COVID, it was actually free because they had free services available to promote exporting.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea with the commercial service group, the Department of Commerce, is to get what they classify our company, which is an SME, the ability to have certain resources, fairly low cost, to help our companies do more exporting. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how I just started doing it. I did it constantly all the time just to get our name out there. They'd also help with not only just the communication, but they help with the marketing, a little bit of marketing, promotion, things like that. And then I also found out that the SBA, which is another group through the government organization, has a grant system through the state of Texas and through most states
Yeah.
called a STEP grant. And I found out for SMEs again, there was money available to help do that as well. And I thought, free money, why not?
Yeah.
But you have to obviously have to get approved for it. So
Yeah.
I
Lots of
went through that
paperwork in
process as well.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
But
that's
it just
awesome.
helped overall just to help. I mean, for a small company to have that money available, to have
Yeah.
the services available to the U.S. government and the state of Texas. Actually, I work closely with the governor's office in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
And then just the connections and the relationships I came up with, it got me involved with our local district export council, which you see the sign in the back.
Yeah.
That's why I became the second vice chair of the executive committee. And again, we're helping this area of North Texas, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then actually we also cover West Texas, but to help again engage companies to be able to sell overseas to help them export.
Yeah.
And we give them all kinds of services and things like that, not only um, through let's say banking. We have banking companies, or we have banks that work with us. We have logistic companies that work with us,
Yeah.
UPS, FedEx, people like that. Um, and then even American Airlines and their logistics companies and things like that. So it was a great way to be able to tap into some resources that most companies don't know about. I mean,
Yeah.
especially a small family-owned company that is just trying to figure out, how do we promote
Yeah. How do
ourselves?
we get it? Yeah, that's a good support. What about the whole branding and the marketing with the language? Did you had to get flyers or anything translated, or is
We
everything in
did.
English?
Back when I first started, there was translation companies that would come to us. There's translation services available from commercial service that would help too.
Yeah.
And also, I had a marketing partner back then that was also a translation specialist. And a lot of our literature we would convert into certain countries that we felt were important. So we did it in German, Spanish, French. I think we did one in Turkish because
Yeah.
I have a distributor in Turkey. Um, and then I think one in Polish for Poland.
Yeah.
So depending, but most of them obviously speak English
Yeah.
typically.
Yeah.
So most of them would say it's fine to have an English version but if you had it available, it would make it a little bit more nicer to pass out to some of our people that will say are a little bit more strict to their country
Yeah.
communications.
Yeah. How has like with technology, like or software in this process, right, on expanding and being global, but then still local. So do you have what kind of technology have been supporting on the
We
way?
really didn't have to do much because our IT department here is, pretty up to speed on what's going on in the industry. So we were
Yeah.
always, doing stuff with Microsoft 365 and having the interconnect and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that really wasn't an issue. And then we ultimately went to a CRM system because there were just too many opportunities coming up and we couldn't do it ourselves. We couldn't just put it on a spreadsheet anymore.
Yeah.
So we finally got into a custom CRM a program. And the last 2 years, actually, it took us that long to get there.
Yeah.
Because, some things are still, you're still used to doing the old way.
Yeah.
But that's helped us out a lot. And then because we're doing more, obviously, overseas and locally, and because of our distribution network, POS is important to us too.
Yeah.
So we can see where the business is going with our distributors and things like that. So we also finally started working with one of the POS aggregators, Buddy Marketing, that a
Yeah.
lot of people know of. And that not only helped us obviously in North America, which is key for our reps, and then getting, proper compensation for the work they do, but it helped us in EMEA and APAC to expand and see, wow, we are selling to some incredible companies
Yeah.
throughout EMEA and APAC, which we could only find out through the POS system that we have. So those kind of software updates and things like that, and we have because of our, I'll say our business increased dramatically, especially in during the COVID years, during 2021, 2022, even and 20 part of 2023
Yeah.
is we had to finally go to EDI, which is a small company we've never done. But we had to kind of get with the times and to be able to promote more with some of our global distributors. So we had to start a brand new software program with EDI, which we've again never did before, and it
Yeah.
was pretty intensive and things like that. So it's a good thing. I mean, the promotion and the growth over there, and then especially over here, and then with our global distributors, it's kind of, I won't say forced us to, but it basically allowed us to get into some, uh, software and some efficiencies that we haven't had before.
Yeah. I don't know. How, again, when Europe is huge, right? It's the same if you want to go into the American market, that's the 50 states, right? Where do you start? So again, looking at Europe, how do you, if you want to give an advice to somebody saying they want to enter, where is there some countries where you're saying, hey, this is where you should focus, or do you need to run like an analysis first to find out, where your customer base is?
Yeah,
Right.
I think you find out fairly early that, some of the primary countries that obviously are doing a lot of things like we do over here are the big
Yeah.
countries like Germany, Italy,
Yeah.
um, France, and then Spain. Spain has been remarkably, their technology's increased, and there's a lot of EV markets going on there, a lot of EV industry going on there.
Yeah.
And then you just find out, and then of course England, UK, that whole area, obviously too.
Yeah.
And then you just find pockets of, where you find out, I don't know, if this certain country's really doing this kind of business, but in reality they are.
Yeah.
They're either getting into some kind of technology, or at least they have data centers and things like that. And we don't have that kind of, ability sometimes to know that that's out there until you ask the question.
Yeah.
And, even I'm starting to do some things now because we've kind of, I won't say we've been short-sighted down south, but in South America and Latin America, there's a lot of technology going on there. We just haven't spent as much time exploring that area as much.
Yeah.
Some of our distributors are starting to expand more, especially into Brazil, but it's a totally different market down there.
With Brazil, right, and with the government, and you're learning how to navigate, right, in that in a new
Space,
culture,
yeah.
new country, like yeah, it's different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Brazil is a little bit different than most other countries, I'll say, and
Yeah.
it's a little bit more difficult. So to find the right, let's say if there's a distributor, possibly, I mean, like I said, like some of our global distributors are starting to open up down there, but
Yeah.
it's even hard for them as well. And
Yeah.
there's certain, let's say lines, their supplier lines that they have that they're not allowed to sell into
Mm.
Brazil or certain countries. And so we're just trying to navigate, find out, is that a market we're missing? I think it is
Yeah.
because there's still a lot of technology down there that's going on, like telecom and a lot of datacom, a lot of
Yeah.
medical,
Yeah.
and things like that. And we have seen some of our distributors, our global distributors, are selling, let's say, e-commerce down to there. So there's some activity there. Now it's like, how do we tap into that? How do we figure out how to, and again, how do we get a local person that we can trust?
Yeah.
That
Okay, I wanna go back to Europe a little bit. So again, yeah, you said you visit, right? You had some, you went there. How do you keep the communication flowing? Do you need to visit every year, every 2 years? Is it Zoom, team calls, How do you keep that network or trust together with
Yeah, I think I found it. Well, I found it early. I still like face to face. Face to face is important. I think,
yeah,
and especially over there. Um, Before COVID and everything, I would try to go out as much as I possibly could, but obviously it's expensive going out there back and forth as many times for a small company when you got limited resources, limited
yeah,
expense account, let's say. So we went to 4 Hanover messes in a row. So that was part of the way to do it. And then at the same time, I would extend and stay a few days in the UK because we have a facility, we have a warehouse and stocking rep in the UK.
yeah,
So I would go visit them and visit accounts. So I typically would try to be there a minimum of 1 year, once a year.
yeah,
But lately I've expanded that since COVID, is over. But during COVID, virtual was obviously the important factor, and I did end up getting some new distributors virtually, which was great. But now I need to go see them.
yeah,
So I try to go over at least 2 to 3 times a year, typically.
yeah,
But like you said, Europe is huge. Where do you go and where do you
yeah,
spend your time? Um, and so I kind of pick and choose kind of where I go. And the last trip I made, I did make a little extended deal to go up to Poland because I had signed up a new distributor in Poland, and I wanted them to. Yeah, so went to Poland, got to meet my distributor up there, which was pretty exciting for them. Their facility was amazing. I mean, you never see the same things, except face to face that you would, let's say, when you're looking at it virtually. Because, people are using virtual backgrounds, things like that. You're like, do they have a real building? Do they have
yeah,
real
yeah.
floor?
Where are they standing, right?
But I got to the facility and,
Yeah,
and took a tour, and I was amazed. I was like, "How are y'all here in the middle of nowhere?" Oh, I mean, they're not in the Gdynia area,
yeah,
which is not too far from Gdansk. It's just on the Baltic Sea. But
yeah,
they have like a 50,000 square foot facility, 3 story. They're doing all kinds of value added stuff that I had no idea they were doing. So that is just important just to get that face to face contact. So
yeah.
I was able to go to Italy during that same trip and go see my distributor out of Bologna because I presented them the International Distributor of the Year award, which is the
Ooh,
first one we ever gave, because they had the best year ever in 2023
yeah,
for us, and they did. I mean, well, almost $1 million, and they're like a small little, again, local distributor in Italy that covers just really the whole country of Italy. So it's impressive to be able to see them and actually talk to them face to face. So I
yeah.
try to go now at least 2 to 3 times a year.
I love it. And it's also just you can see the growth, right? So that's even more to see you being proud as well to give that award.
Yeah,
It's just
just to
because
see
of what
how
you
they're
built.
expanding,
Yeah,
how they're interacting. Maybe I help them kind of connect with somebody else here
yeah,
in the States, a manufacturer of some sort. So yeah, it's a two-way street when it comes to all this because they're trying to expand their promotion throughout their area and possibly then with suppliers and things that are maybe only in the States.
yeah. Like it. So if somebody's listening and saying, "Oh, I want to get this started," what kind of advice do you want to give them to go for this localization and actually grow bigger in Europe?
Again, I would say try to talk to, great way to start is look for your district export council. There's 60 in the United States. There's 60 locations. I think that we have four here in the state of Texas, depending on your region. So that's a great place to go. They're a good place to start. Also, get in with the U.S. Commercial Service, find out the contacts there. Their services are all over the on their website. You can tell what they can do. You can get in contact with them. There's always somebody, again, that's local. We have a local person with commercial service that is part of our deck. So you can get with them. They'll give you ideas of who to connect with, who to talk to, and things like that. You give them, okay, I'm looking at doing something with this country. What can you help me do? And they'll give
Yeah.
you recommendations and suggestions and contacts to do that too.
Yeah.
And then it's just really just going out and promoting, yourself, that you are let's say, a global company trying to expand out in a certain territory,
Yeah.
certain region, certain country. And people should start coming to you. I use a lot of LinkedIn, obviously, connections and promotions a lot of times to promote what's going on and what's happening
Yeah.
with our company and myself when I do travel and things like that. And then obviously going to some of these conferences that you and I see each other, the ERA or ECIA or EDS
Yeah.
or any of those. And then also looking for some of these larger global shows that maybe they didn't want to or are afraid to attend. Maybe they should attend it, at least walk it and go find out what is going on in that marketplace. Just recently, I decided to go to Agritechnica, which I'd never heard of before in my life. But it's the largest show in agricultural technology in the world. It's in Hanover as well. It was in March this year. And it's every 2 years.
Yeah.
I was introduced to it by one of my, I'll say, global distributors, but they're a national distributor that's expanded into Europe recently, but they introduced me to it and I decided I'll go, try it out, go walk the show. I
Yeah.
was just amazed
Yeah.
by the technology just in the agricultural world, which I knew we sold to, but I wasn't familiar as much, face to face of what what was, and it
Yeah.
was like, wow,
Yeah. It's
it's
like an eye
really
opener, right? Just to walk the show. And even though
just to
you
walk
can
the
set up,
show
you
and
can
see
even set up
all
meetings
the
still. Yeah.
and
But you
just
can, yeah, it's wow, right? And you can set up meetings. You don't need to have a booth, right?
right. I didn't have to,
Yeah.
all I did was make contacts with who I could. I ended up one of my other distributors was going to be there too. I told him about it. We met there too
Yeah.
and kind of looked at stuff, ourselves just to visualize what was going on. So I think there's some trade shows out there that they could connect with, depending on the industry that they go after, or the marketplace they're looking for.
Yeah.
Especially if you're trying to get to the EV market or any of these emerging markets like IO or AI and things like that. Find out those shows and just go visit them. And most of the time you can get free passes to go to these shows anyway.
Yeah.
So why not try them out, see if it's something you like, get in contact with the people, and you might start finding a little niche
Yeah.
of things and most of the time, I will say my competitors, aren't there, either. So it's like, okay, I got one
Yeah.
step over on something, but I like the idea of just being able to go walk it.
Yeah.
If I could, if I could have a booth, if it makes sense, then we will spend the money to do it. But typically, I don't have to, or I can partner with one of my distributors, like I did actually with this show in Germany. They had a booth, and they asked me to participate with them. So I had my own little presentation
Yeah.
set up, and that was part of the premise of me coming to that show too, so is to help promote and help sponsor or not sponsor, but work with them and try to look for opportunities. So it was great. So I know there's a lot more things to have there, but I think you got to start. You got to
Yeah.
start
No,
somewhere,
yeah. But
start
it's good
making
to
the
hear. Yeah,
contacts.
connect. And I think it's good to hear you're like a front runner, right? And also by going there and having the communication, or you can actually ask who you meet, right? Oh, who should I talk to? Or do you know, right? So you're getting the recommendations and getting further in with with the networking. So I think that's
Right.
amazing.
I think we've fallen into a trap, and I'll say I have to because I'm one of them. I fall into the trap of only looking at emails and those kind of things and thinking
Yeah.
that emails are going to do it all. But sometimes you just have to, I hate to say
Yeah.
it, you just have to call. You
Yeah.
have to either
Pick up
call,
the phone.
pick up the phone, quit messaging, pick up the phone,
Yeah.
or just go out face to face. You don't
Yeah.
need to be doing everything in front of your computer, get in front of
Yeah.
people. I love the virtual
Yeah.
space that we've created, especially during COVID, which, I had no idea was going to be so incredibly uh, valuable, with doing Zoom meetings
Yeah.
and team meetings and things like that. But that face to face, as you know, it's
Yeah.
just the most important thing in the world still. So just getting out, meeting people, calling them, actually going to go see what's going on in the world, and just getting out and finding out what else is available
Yeah.
on a global basis because it's out there. I do have a distributor in India, which is doing really well for me. And I need to get to India, but that's like, not ever think about going to India most of the time. But the market out there it's
Huge.
expanding
Yeah.
dramatically over there.
Yeah.
So I got to do it at some point.
Yeah. No, it's good. I love it. That this is like a really great way to listen to find out how, your family company, a local company, right, is actually have expanded. So thank you for sharing this journey. I want to ask you one more question and it's always like reflecting. And so David, if you could give yourself an advice 20 years ago, what would that be?
Yeah, I was trying to think of that. 20 years ago, I think I should have done it sooner, obviously. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
If you got ideas in your head about doing some things and you think they're far-fetched, maybe it's something that might work. I've always wanted to promote the company. That was part of the reason when I came back and I was spurred on to try to promote the company is how I do that. And I didn't know how to do it, but I needed to find out how to do it. I think if I would have done it sooner, we'd be in a lot better place even than today.
Yeah.
It just took me longer than it should have to maybe make that first step, I guess I'll say,
Yeah.
and then just learn what was out there and available.
Yeah, but it's always easy to reflect, right? And saying I should have done
Oh,
something
yeah.
sooner. But I totally agree with you that if you have something that sparks and you're saying, "Oh, I should try," if you think years over it, right? Just jump in, just try it
Uh,
out, figure it out, and then use your network.
I think I forget what the deal is, but it says it's not failure; it's the next step or something, or I forget what
Yeah,
the word is, but
yeah, yeah. It's
you
learning on
got
the
to
way,
sometimes
right?
have a
Yeah,
failure to be
yeah.
able to get better.
Hey, look at all the rocket ships, right? They don't just return in the first in the first trial. It
Oh
takes
yeah,
time. It takes time. Awesome. So if some of the listeners wants to connect with you, how can they reach out to you?
yeah. I'm definitely on LinkedIn. You can always find my name with David Luna under there. Connect me that way. We're always looking for those connections, aren't we?
Yes.
Um, And then by email, I mean, and I think my email's on there, but I could share my email for anybody that's wanted to contact me here. So that's probably the two best places to do it.
Yeah. Awesome. And I'll make sure to put the contact with LinkedIn and your email in the show notes, and also on the website episode page that's on leadership in manufacturing.
Great. Yeah, be great. Love
Yeah.
to talk to anybody that wants to
Yeah.
learn more.
So, David, I want to say thank you so much. And for the people who won't see everything, my camera has been on, off, on, off, on, off. So, woo, what an episode. So, David, thank you so much for staying the course on
No
saying, yes,
problem.
we are here. So, I had a blast and talking to you today. So, thank you so much.
Oh, thanks so much for allowing me to talk a little bit more about globalization means localization. I think it's an important factor that a lot of companies need to look at.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Leadership in Manufacturing podcast. I love that you're listening. Please find us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, and be sure to subscribe and rate us. Also, follow our LinkedIn page and Instagram, and check out leadershipinmanufacturing.com for previous episodes, blog posts, and our newsletter. So let's continue this journey together to become better leaders in the electronics industry. Remember, stay curious, keep learning. See you next time.